He stood in my kitchen, waving a stack of papers like he owned the place. Just sign it, Mom. It's standard, for your care. But I knew better. Those weren't caregiver forms. That was a contract. And not just any contract. It was his golden ticket to my entire bank account. I raised him. I changed his diapers. And now he was trying to legally steal from me one, while I sat in a chair with a broken hip and a heart full of regret. He even brought his daughter, my sweet 14-year-old granddaughter, to pressure me. She doesn't even know what day it is, he whispered behind my back. We're just helping. Helping? He forged my signature on a document that gave him access to every penny I'd ever saved. Called it fair compensation for watching over me. But he wasn't watching. He was counting. What he didn't know was I'd been watching too, and I left him something special in that account. Something that would change everything. I worked too hard, for too long, to be treated like some leftover casserole they forgot in the fridge. My name is Ruth. I'm 73, and up until last year, I thought I raised a good man. I was never wealthy, but I was stable. Paid my house off in '03. Drove the same beige Ford Focus for 2 decades. I used coupons, saved change in jars, and said no to a lot of things so my son could say yes to his. I believed in doing things right, quietly, with dignity. But lately, dignity doesn't get you much. It started with my hip. One bad step outside Walmart, icy sidewalk, busted joint. Suddenly I was the problem. Jeffrey came over with that rehearsed concern in his voice. You sure you can manage the stairs, Mom? I nodded. You sure you're taking the right meds? I nodded again. Then came the not-so-subtle offers. We've got space in the basement. Emma's barely using it. You'd have more help. I smiled politely. I have help. I'm not helpless. He didn't like that answer. The next week, my mailbox was full of catalogs I'd never signed up for. Insurance offers, final expense plans, even a cremation discount. Funny, I wasn't even dead yet. Emma used to come over with her sketchbook. Sit by my feet, ask me about the '70s. Now she scrolled TikTok and gave one-word answers. Want to help me bake banana bread? I asked one Saturday. Can't. I'm doing a mental health break. Then she added, without looking up, Dad says your savings just sit there. Why not use it now, while you're still around? While I'm still around? I bit my tongue so hard it bled. Jeffrey showed up again a few days later, this time with folders. He sat at my kitchen table, the same one he spilled orange juice on as a boy, and laid them out like he was closing a real estate deal. Just a standard caregiver contract, he said casually. This makes sure everything's legal. You stay independent, and I get compensated for checking in. That's all. He looked proud of himself, like he'd really found the sweet spot between guilt and logic. But I'd seen that same look years ago, when he tried to sell my old wedding ring at a pawn shop behind my back. Don't worry, I'll read it later, I said. He frowned. It's really just a formality. I even talked to a lawyer. They said it's common. Then it can wait, I said, and stood up to feed the cat. My knees shook, but I stayed tall. That night, I pulled out my lockbox, the will, the titles, the insurance forms. I hadn't looked at them in years, and suddenly I felt naked, because I realized if he got my signature on any of those papers without me knowing what they really were, he could bleed me dry and call it legal. That's when I called the bank, opened a fresh account under my maiden name, labeled it Honey Jar, put in $50,000. I moved the real money elsewhere. Then I set up alerts, automatic notifications if anything over $500 got touched. I even paid extra for a fraud detection flag. I wanted to see how far he'd go. Christmas was cold. Not the weather, them. They gave me one gift, a pair of slippers. I thought they were adorable, Emma said. They were 3 sizes too big, and men's. I put them in the closet next to the box labeled donations. Dinner was awkward. I brought my famous cranberry casserole. No one touched it. Jeffrey took over the carving knife like it was his house. Called a toast. Thanked everyone for coming together for family. He didn't look at me once. That night, they all sat on their phones while I crocheted quietly in the corner. I felt like a ghost. Then I heard him say it in the hallway. Thought I couldn't hear. She's going soon anyway. Might as well prepare. I didn't cry. Not then. But something inside me hardened. The final straw came on a Thursday. January 18th. I got a text from the bank. Alert! Withdrawal of $48,713 from Honey Jar account. I stared at the screen. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't catch. I just smiled. Because that was the test, and he failed it. What Jeffrey didn't know was that the minute a large withdrawal hit that account, it would do 3 things. Flag a fraud alert directly to the branch manager. Freeze the transaction pending a call from me. Trigger a scheduled legal update. My will, held in trust, would automatically amend. I'd planned it months ago. Pre-signed, notarized, and timed to the alert. At 2:14 p.m., he thought he'd drained my last dollar. At 2:15 p.m., he erased his name from my will. But I wasn't done yet, because there were still things he hadn't seen. Things buried deeper than he ever knew. And the next time he'd walk into that bank, he'd walk into a trap. The thing about betrayal is it doesn't start with a bang. It starts with little cracks. A missed birthday call, a forgotten doctor's appointment, a text that says, sorry, busy. And then one day, you wake up and realize you're just a line on someone's spreadsheet. A week after that fake withdrawal, Jeffrey stopped by again. This time, no folder. No smile. Just tension. He didn't sit. Didn't even take off his shoes. Just hovered in the doorway like a salesman who knew the customer wasn't buying. We need to talk, he said. I nodded. We can talk. He stared at me like I was a faulty engine he couldn't quite fix. I know about the Honey Jar account. So, he figured it out. Do you? I said calmly. He scoffed. Don't play games, Mom. I moved the money. You let me, so don't pull some victim act now. I raised an eyebrow. Let you? His voice rose. You think it's easy taking care of someone? You think it's cheap? Emma's therapy, the house payments, gas, every time I have to drive over here. You drive over here once a month, I said. That's not the point, he snapped. You're sitting on thousands while we're barely keeping things together. So you stole it? I asked, flat. Oh, he paused, just for a second. Then, it's not stealing if it's owed. I looked at him and saw someone I didn't recognize. That weekend, Emma came by. Not to check in, not to visit. She needed my signature. Something for a scholarship application, she said. When I asked to read it, she rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd fall out. God, Grandma, it's just a form. Don't you trust me? I didn't answer. Because no, I didn't. I read it. Every word. It wasn't a scholarship form. It was a co-sign document for a new car, an $18,000 electric SUV. I handed it back. No, I said. She stared at me like I slapped her. You're so selfish, she hissed. All you do is sit in this dusty house like a hoarder. Maybe if you actually helped people, you'd have visitors. She left without saying goodbye. I sat down. My knees buckled before my heart did. That night, I looked at the family photo on the mantle. Thanksgiving, 5 years ago. We were all together. Jeffrey had his arm around Emma. I had flour on my cheek from baking pies. I took it down, put it in the drawer, out of sight. The next few weeks were quiet. Too quiet. Jeffrey stopped calling. Emma blocked me on Instagram. I had groceries delivered. Didn't bother baking. There was no one left to eat it. Then the letters started coming, one from a legal service. Notice of elder care agreement dispute. Another from a billing office. Your payment for in-home care has been declined. I never authorized any of it. Turns out Jeffrey submitted that forged caregiver contract to multiple agencies. Claimed back pay, claimed I was under his full-time supervision, claimed I had memory issues. He even filed a statement saying I was legally vulnerable. I called the agency. They said the claims had been verified by a family member. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was insane. But I wasn't panicking, because everything was still playing into the plan. What Jeffrey didn't know was that my real accounts were safe, tucked into certificates of deposit, disguised under my maiden name and a family trust I never told him about. He also didn't know that my neighbor 2 houses down, sweet Miss Beverly, used to be a fraud investigator for a private insurance firm, and she'd been watching everything. We had tea once a week, she kept notes. We built a file, signed statements, screenshots, phone logs, even a video from the Ring camera Jeffrey didn't know I installed last spring. He was in for a rude awakening. Then came the nail in the coffin. I got a letter from Emma's school, a thank you card. Thank you for your generous contribution toward Emma's new laptop and off-campus housing. I never sent a dime. Turns out Jeffrey had been using my name and forged checks to play benevolent father. He even sent a Christmas donation to the PTA in my name, with a note. From Grandma Ruth, who believes in helping from the heart, I called the bank. Any withdrawals after February 3rd? I asked. They paused. Yes, 2 yesterday. 1 check, 1 debit card swipe. My blood ran cold. Because my checkbook was still in the drawer. And my debit card? Still in my wallet. I met Beverly that night. We printed everything, every transaction, every note. You want to call the cops? She asked. I shook my head. Not yet. She smiled. Setting a trap? I nodded. You see, I'd rewritten my will the moment the honey jar alert went off. But I added a little something more. A clause. A very specific clause. If any family member was found using my identity for gain, they'd be permanently disinherited. No appeals, no second chances. The proof was in motion, and the clock was ticking. I used to think growing old meant slowing down, watching birds, folding laundry, sitting on the porch with tea and memories. But no one tells you what it really means. Growing old means becoming invisible, disposable. And if you're not careful, they'll bury you while you're still breathing. They're each getting with paperwork instead of dirt. It started with the phone bill, a charge from a service I didn't recognize. Something called Family Link Premium. I called to dispute it. Hi, yes, this is Ruth Winters. I didn't authorize. Oh, it was added by your power of attorney, ma'am. Your son. My chest tightened. I never gave him that. But the woman on the line just sighed. Ma'am, he submitted documentation. It's signed. I hung up. Then I went to the drawer, pulled out my checkbook, my ID, the medical forms I'd hidden under the stack of old recipe cards, and right there in thick black ink was a signature that looked almost like mine. Almost. He was forging my name. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling fan and tried to remember every time he'd come over in the last 6 months. Every little thing he'd said, every form he handed me with a smile, every joke he cracked about helping me downsize. That wasn't help, that was setup. He was laying bricks, one by one, for a future where I didn't own anything, not my money, not my home, not even my name. Emma posted a photo the next morning, her and her new car beaming. Caption, finally free, thanks Dad. And Grandma. Over 200 likes. I hadn't even spoken to her in weeks. Jeffrey showed up that afternoon. Didn't knock. Just walked in like he still had a key, which apparently he did. I thought I'd changed the locks. Got your groceries, he said, tossing a bag onto the counter. I figured you were low again. I stayed seated. You used my name, I said. He didn't flinch. Just grabbed a soda from the fridge and cracked it open. Calm down. It's not like I drained your real accounts. He took a sip. Oh, wait, I guess I did. He smirked. That smirk used to be charming when he was 10. Now it made my skin crawl. I'm filing a police report, I said. He laughed. Go ahead. You think they'll believe you over me? You're on meds. You've fallen twice this year. You've got early-stage signs of decline? Or did you forget you signed that evaluation? My blood ran cold. He forged that too? Besides, he added, Emma's got screenshots of you mixing up names. You think people don't talk? I stood up. I'm not some helpless old fool, Jeffrey. He leaned in close. But you're close enough. That night, I checked the crawl space. My old lockbox and the one with the land deed was gone. I checked the attic. The chest with the photo albums. Missing. Even the painting my late husband bought me for our 25th anniversary was off the wall. Gone. He was stripping me down piece by piece. Not just money, my life. And the worst part? No one cared. I called Emma, no answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. Third time, she picked up. Her voice was cold. What now? I saw your post, I said. Oh, that. Silence. You used my name. She didn't even try to deny it. I needed the laptop. You weren't using the money. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? I asked, heart pounding. You forged my name. That's a crime. Dad said it's not a big deal if it's family. You wouldn't want to see us struggle, right? I nearly dropped the phone. She used to make me macaroni necklaces and call me her best friend. Now she sounded like a scam artist. I met with Beverly again. She brought a manila folder, thicker this time. Here, she said, timeline, emails, transaction logs, printed screenshots. She tapped a section. See this? That laptop purchase? He routed it through a proxy card. You've got enough for fraud, identity theft, and elder abuse. Is it enough for court? She nodded. Enough for 3 courts. That weekend, I got an email. Subject: end-of-life planning. Final consent needed. My hands shook. It was a hospice registration. With my name, my Medicare number, submitted by next of kin. Jeffrey. I stared at the screen. Everything went quiet. Even the clock on the wall stopped ticking in my mind. He was planning for my exit. Not helping, replacing. And it hit me. This wasn't just about money anymore. He wanted it all. The house, the title, the final decisions, the inheritance, everything. And he wanted it now. I clicked forward. Sent the email to Beverly, then to my lawyer, then to the detective who'd given me his card last fall after I spoke at the community center. I wrote one line under it. I'm ready. They say grief comes in waves. But betrayal? It hits like a brick. One sharp crack, and you're never the same again. It was a Monday. Cold. The kind of cold that makes your bones feel older than they are. I was sitting in my recliner, wrapped in my husband's old army blanket, drinking tea that had long gone cold. That's when the doorbell rang. I opened the door expecting Beverly. It wasn't her. It was a man in a blue jacket. Clipboard, name badge, friendly smile. Hi, Mrs. Winters. I'm Mark from Rosewood Transitional Care. Here to complete your intake. I blinked. Excuse me? For your move-in. It says here we've got you scheduled for transport tomorrow morning. He held out a packet. Inside was a full admission contract. Room number. Medical file. Insurance info. Signed. By Jeffrey. I didn't authorize this, I said, my voice tight. I didn't sign any of this. He tilted his head, still trying to sound gentle. Your son said you were experiencing confusion, that you'd get upset. I'm not confused. I slammed the door. My chest burned. My hands were shaking too hard to hold the tea. He wasn't waiting for me to die anymore. He was trying to erase me. I called Jeffrey. Straight to voicemail, left a message. Then another. Then one more. No reply. That night, I got a text. One line. This is what's best for everyone. Don't fight it. No punctuation. No apology. The next morning, I heard a truck outside, a moving van. Two strangers started hauling boxes up my walkway. "Where are you going with those?" I asked from the porch. One guy shrugged. "Got an order to clear out the front room. Said it was part of a living estate transition." Living estate? Like I was already gone. I looked around the house. My house? The curtains I sewed myself. The fridge covered in magnets from every trip I ever took. The photos, the quilt, the chair my husband died in. He was stealing my life, one piece at a time. I walked back inside, locked the door behind me, and cried. Really cried. Not quiet tears. The kind that leave your face blotchy and your lungs aching. The kind that make you feel like a child again, alone and scared. I didn't cry because of what he took. I cried because I let it happen. Because I kept hoping he'd remember who I was. Later that afternoon, Emma showed up. Didn't knock, just barged in with her earbuds in and a tote bag over her shoulder. "Dad said to grab a few things," she mumbled, walking past me. "Excuse me?" I asked. She didn't stop. "He said we should clear the house now so it's easier later." "Later when?" I said, my voice rising. She rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic, Grandma. You need care, and we need space. Everyone wins." She grabbed my jewelry box off the dresser. That did it. "Put that down," I said, sharp. "Why? It's not like you wear it anymore." I said put it down. She dropped it onto the floor. The lid cracked. A brooch snapped in half. Then she walked right past me and out the door. I stood there staring at the broken pin. My mother's. She wore it to her wedding in 1947. I knelt to pick it up. My hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't grief. It was rage. Cold, clear rage. That was the moment. Right then. I stopped being the mother who forgave. I stopped being the grandmother who stayed quiet, and I became something else. I picked up the phone, called Beverly. "It's time," I said. She didn't ask what I meant. She just said, "I'll be over in 10. We went through everything. The timeline, the forged signatures, the bank activity, the fraudulent hospice admission. Then I called my lawyer, told him to activate the trust clause. Immediate disinheritance for cause, exploitation, coercion, and fraud. We drafted the letter. Legal notice delivered by courier, but I wasn't done, not even close. 2 days later, I walked into the bank. Quiet, calm, told the manager I wanted to close out all accounts in my name, except the trust. She looked confused. "Ma'am, someone already made a full withdrawal last week." "I know," I said. That was the bait. She blinked. "I'm sorry." I slid the documents across the desk. "This is the fraud report. And here's the court filing." I watched her face go pale. Because everything was about to shift. That night, I baked. Cranberry walnut loaf. The same kind I used to make when Jeffrey was little. It was the only thing I could do to stop my hands from shaking. But not from sadness this time. From adrenaline. Because in 48 hours, he'd be standing in that bank. And when he reached for what he thought was left, he'd find something else waiting. Something he couldn't forge. The thing about pressure, it doesn't always look like a threat. Sometimes it wears a smile, holds a clipboard, uses soft voices and just checking in phone calls. But pressure, the real pressure, is when they try to crush your will, not your body, your mind. 3 days after I served the legal notice, Jeffrey showed up at my door. Again. He had 2 coffees in hand and that phony grin pasted on like fresh paint. "Mom," he said gently, "we need to talk like adults." I didn't let him in. Stood right in the doorway. He handed me a new folder. "Power of attorney update. It'll clean up all the confusion. I'll handle the hospital calls, the tax forms, the bills. You won't have to lift a finger." I didn't touch the folder. "I've already handled it," I said. His smile flickered. "Handled how?" I said nothing. He took a slow breath and stepped closer. Look, I know you're upset. Emma's young. She doesn't get it. But this is bigger. You need someone who understands the system. I looked him square in the eye. I do understand the system. I survived it. Without you. He clenched his jaw. You're making this harder than it has to be. I closed the door in his face. He did knock again. That weekend, Emma posted another gem. A TikTok. Her dancing in front of my garage. The caption, "Say goodbye to Grandma's house. We're finally upgrading." I watched it twice. Stunned. Then the comments came in. She passed away? She's going to a home, I think. Good for y'all. That place looked haunted. No one corrected them. No one said I was still alive. I tried to call Beverly. No answer. Later, I found out she'd slipped on ice outside her porch. Broke her ankle. Hospital stay. My last real ally. Gone for now. The walls felt closer. The air tighter. I sat on my couch and just stared until the doorbell rang. Again. This time it was two people. A woman in a pantsuit, a man with a briefcase. "Mrs. Winters?" the woman asked. "Yes. We're here regarding the pending reassignment of ownership on your property title." My heart sank. They handed me a packet. Somehow Jeffrey had filed a quitclaim deed, transferring my house into a joint ownership trust. "Filed with county records 2 days ago," the man added. "We just need your confirmation signature." "I never signed this," I said. The woman hesitated. "Well, we do have a signature on file." They showed me a page. My name, my handwriting. But not my hand. I kept my face still. "I'd like to verify this with my lawyer." The woman's voice turned sharp. "Delaying could cause complications. You don't want to end up in probate, do you?" The man jumped in. "This is a streamlined option. For your benefit." I smiled. That calm, scary kind of smile. "Come back with a warrant." And I shut the door. I needed air. Went to Walmart just to walk. Think. Watch people who weren't trying to steal my name. But they followed me even there. As I pushed my cart toward the parking lot, I saw Jeffrey's car idling near the sidewalk. Emma was in the passenger seat. I walked faster. He got out. Called after me. "Mom, this is childish. You're making a scene." I stopped. Turned around. "You made the scene. I'm just in it." He walked up and lowered his voice. "You go to the police, I'll drag your name through every agency I can. You think they'll believe you? A retired old woman on meds with no power of attorney?" People were starting to look. A few slowed their carts. I kept my voice calm. "Your threats are sloppy, Jeffrey." "I'm not threatening." He leaned in. "I'm just telling you what happens next." Then Emma rolled down her window and shouted across the lot, "Stop being so dramatic, Grandma. No one wants to hurt you." The manager came outside, asked if I was okay. I nodded, but inside, I was burning. I left Walmart without buying anything. Went home. Called my lawyer. "Status?" He hesitated. "There's a complication." My stomach dropped. "What kind?" He cleared his throat. "Your son filed a petition for guardianship, claims you're mentally unfit. Hearing's been rushed. Next Tuesday." I gripped the phone so tight my hand ached. "He's trying to legally erase me." "Yes," he said quietly. "But we're ready." I hung up. Then I walked to the closet. Pulled out the box labeled Thanksgiving 1999. Inside, taped to the bottom, was my insurance binder. Letters. Originals. Certified copies of everything, with dates, stamps, and signatures. Untouched. Unforged. And one other thing. A prepaid envelope addressed to the local news station. Ready to mail. He thought I was cornered. But I was documented. And next Tuesday, that courtroom would become his worst day. The front door wouldn't open. My key twisted. But nothing. I tried again. Nothing. Then I noticed the lock. Brand new, different color, different screws. I hadn't changed it. I stood on my own porch in the cold, holding 2 bags of groceries, heart pounding like a war drum. I rang the bell. No answer. I knocked. Then I heard it. Footsteps inside. Someone moving around. A shadow passed behind the curtain. I knocked again. Harder this time. Finally, the door opened. Just a crack. Emma's face appeared. Blank. Cold. "What are you doing here?" she said. "I live here." "No, you don't." My stomach dropped. "What did you say?" She opened the door fully. "Dad says the house is in transition. You're not supposed to be here anymore." "I never signed anything," I said, voice trembling. She crossed her arms. "Doesn't matter. You're being transferred. It's handled." I stared at her. My things, my clothes, my photos. "They've been packed," she said flatly. "Some are in storage." I took a shaky breath. "I want them back." She smirked. "You'll have to ask Dad." Then she shut the door, right in my face. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, didn't start the engine. Just stared at the steering wheel. I couldn't even cry. I was past tears. They had locked me out of my own house. Everything I owned, behind someone else's key. I drove to the library and used their Wi-Fi. Logged into my bank account. 2 new charges I didn't recognize. One to a locksmith service, another to an estate consolidation agency. Both dated the day before. I printed the statements. Every page. Stapled them one by one with hands that were shaking, not from age, but from fury. That night, I slept at a motel. Cheap. Clean enough. The front desk clerk called me ma'am and smiled like I still mattered. It was more than my own family had done in weeks. I lay on the thin mattress staring at the popcorn ceiling, thinking about Emma's face. The way she looked at me like I was nothing. And then it clicked. She didn't see me anymore. She saw a thing. A house. A number. A barrier between her and her next upgrade. Jeffrey had taught her that, coached her into it, gave her permission. They weren't a family anymore, they were a team. And I was the opponent. Next morning, I drove straight to county records, asked to see the most recent filings under my name. The clerk blinked. "Are you sure you want to see these?" "Print everything," I said. And she did. What I saw made my blood run cold. Jeffrey had submitted a revocation of my original will. A new version written in sloppy legalese. It stripped out the trust, named him sole executor, made Emma the backup, forged my signature. Again. But worse? He'd filed a statement of declining capacity, notarized by some fly-by-night mobile agent. They claimed I had early-stage dementia, that I forgot names and couldn't recall dates. Lies. All of it. I went straight to my lawyer, dropped the file on his desk. He flipped through it, eyebrows climbing higher. "He's escalating fast." "Too fast," I said. "He thinks I'm weak." He looked up. "Then let's show him you're not." On the way home, or the place that used to be home, I stopped by the post office. There was a small envelope waiting, no return address. Inside, one photo. Black and white. It was a picture of my garage door, spray painted with one word, gone. No note, no explanation. Just that. I drove to Beverly's. Crutched up and pale, she opened the door herself. "I need you to see something," I said. We sat at her kitchen table. I laid out the folder. The photo. She didn't say a word. She just got up, opened her drawer, and handed me a thumb drive. "I've been recording every time they came near your house," she said. "Ring cam, backups too. I knew this day would come." My hands shook as I took it. This was the crack in their glass, the one they wouldn't see coming. Later that night, I parked across from my old house. Lights were on, laughter inside. They weren't mourning me. They were celebrating. Emma came out in a new jacket, got into the SUV I never co-signed. Jeffrey followed, talking loud, confident. They drove off. Didn't even glance toward the car where I sat, watching. I turned the engine over and drove the opposite direction. Toward the courthouse, toward the plan, toward payback. They thought I was done, finished, forgotten. Just a tired old woman on the edge of memory. But they forgot one thing. I raised a child in a one-bedroom apartment with a broken sink, 2 jobs, and no help. I survived a husband's cancer, 3 recessions, and an entire neighborhood thinking I couldn't manage alone. I wasn't broken. I was waiting. The morning after I saw the forged will, I made a list. Not a grocery list. A war list. I called my lawyer first. Time to activate the trigger, I said. He knew what that meant. We'd discussed it weeks ago. A pre-signed directive. If fraud was proven by any party named in my will or trust, their inheritance would be revoked, frozen, and reallocated. Immediately. He didn't ask questions, just said, "It's done." Step 1, complete. Next, I contacted the financial fraud unit. The good one. The local one that didn't treat you like a nuisance. "I have hard evidence," I said. "Forged documents, identity theft, real-time transactions." They scheduled an in-person meeting. Urgent. I printed every page Beverly helped me collect. Statements, emails, the locksmith bill, the estate transfer, the guardianship petition. I even included the TikTok video with the caption about saying goodbye to Grandma's house. The officer's face stayed neutral, but his pen moved fast. "When was the last unauthorized transaction?" he asked. 4 days ago. "And the last time you physically accessed your property?" 3 days ago. They changed the locks." He wrote that down, tapped his pen twice. Then he looked up. "We'll be in touch soon." That afternoon, I visited the notary office, took my time, signed 3 documents. Quiet, controlled. Last one? A formal statement revoking all previous power of attorney designations. The woman at the desk raised an eyebrow. "Family trouble?" "No," I said. "Not family." She didn't press. Then I made the hardest call of all. The news station, community affairs desk. "I have a story," I told the producer, "but I don't want sympathy. I want exposure." I emailed everything, redacted only what I had to, included my age, my full name. They wrote back within an hour. "We've seen a few cases like this, but never this detailed, and never this prepared. We'd like to interview you." 2 nights later, I sat in Beverly's living room. We kept the lights low. On the TV, the lead story played. Local woman fights back after son's alleged elder fraud scheme. There was my name, my face. Blurred addresses, but real documents. They didn't use my voice, just a narrator. But every word hit like a stone. The next morning, my phone buzzed with calls from blocked numbers. I didn't answer. At noon, I got a text from Jeffrey. "What the hell did you do?" I didn't reply. At 1:17 p.m., the real message came. A notification from the county. "Petition for guardianship of Ruth Winters has been withdrawn." I closed my eyes, breathed deep. But I wasn't done. Next step, the honey jar. That fake account, the one I let him steal from, it was flagged. On purpose. When he moved the money, it tripped every alert. Fraud detection, suspicious behavior, elder account manipulation. It also triggered the clause in my trust, the one that locked him, and anyone associated with him out of the real accounts. Which meant Emma's college payments? Stopped. The SUV gas card? Declined. The checks for future home care? Bounced. And just to be sure, I hired a locksmith. A good one this time. Changed the locks again, this time on the storage unit they used for my things. Because legally I still owned the contents. I showed up during daylight in a cardigan and church shoes. Walked in, unlocked the unit, and took everything. My wedding ring, my photos, the letters, the baby shoes I saved from when Jeffrey was 2. I took it all, except one thing. a copy of the forged will. I left that pinned to the wall with a note. Nice handwriting. Not mine. That night, I slept in my old bed. How? Because I had filed a temporary injunction. With enough proof of fraud and coercion, the judge gave me emergency right of reentry to my own property. And the sheriff walked me to the front door, watched me turn the key. Jeffrey wasn't there, but Emma was, sitting on my couch, watching TV like nothing had happened. She looked up. Seriously? Very seriously, I said. She stood, rolled her eyes. You're ruining everything. I smiled. No, sweetie, I'm taking it back. She stormed out without a word. I didn't stop her. I had one more thing to do. The file from Beverly, it had one folder I hadn't opened yet, one labeled Hidden Account. It was quiet in the house. My house. No fake contracts on the table, no strangers in the kitchen, no locks changed without asking. Just me, the old floor creaking under my steps, and a plan already in motion. I started early that morning, printed copies, set reminders, wrote a checklist on a yellow legal pad, just like I used to do back when bills were due and Jeffrey needed lunch money and school shoes in the same week. Only this time, the list wasn't about surviving. It was about settling the score. Step 1, finish the paper trail. I met with my lawyer again, sat down with 2 bankers, 1 notary, and a fraud investigator from the district office, all in one afternoon. I'm tired, I told them, but not too tired to finish this. We reviewed everything line by line. The forged quitclaim deed, the guardianship attempt, the unauthorized power of attorney, the stolen bank funds, the digital fingerprints on every single forged login. One investigator leaned back, whistling low. Your son's been busy. He's been sloppy, I corrected. Step 2, set the trap. I created a new email address, anonymous, sent a message to Emma. Grandma says she's willing to settle things quietly, no courts, no drama. She's moving assets. If you want to talk, come alone. Thursday, 3 p.m., the storage unit. No signature, no explanation. I knew she'd take the bait. Because Emma never did like being left out, especially if she thought there was money involved. Thursday, 2:45 p.m. I was already parked 2 spots down, engine off, windows cracked. Emma arrived in that flashy SUV, the one she got with my stolen name. She looked around, confused, nervous. Opened the unit door, nothing inside but 1 box. She knelt, opened it. Inside, 1 copy of the new trust, stamped legal. Her name nowhere in sight. Also inside, a burner phone. It rang, she answered. My voice came through. Surprised? Grandma, I just wanted you to see what honesty looks like. She didn't say anything, so I said one more thing. You didn't lose the money, Emma. You threw it away. Then I hung up. Step 3, freeze the funds. The honey jar had already locked down Jeffrey's access to anything tied to my SSN. But now, I closed the loop. I called the banks and flagged every joint account, every old credit line with his name, every auto payment he tried to sneak under my tax ID. 1 account bounced live while I was still on the call. The banker chuckled. That one was for a real estate course. Guess he's learning now. At noon, I got an email from Jeffrey. No greeting, just this. What are you trying to prove? I replied with 1 sentence. That you should never steal from someone who taught you to survive on less than you wasted. He didn't reply, but I saw the panic coming. Step 4, expose the lie. I walked into the sheriff's office with 2 boxes. Evidence, Beverly's thumb drive. Court documents, printouts. The clerk waved me through. Detective Monroe met me in his office. This everything? He asked. No, I said. It's just the beginning. He plugged in the drive. Reviewed the timestamps. Clear pattern, he said. We can move forward with fraud, elder exploitation, possibly conspiracy. Make it stick, I said. He nodded. We'll do our part. You did yours. But there was one more piece. The safe. buried under the house, hidden since the early 90s. My husband installed it, said it was for rainy days or real bad people. This counted as both. I turned the dial, opened it, and pulled out the envelope marked Legacy. Do not touch unless it gets real. Inside, photos, originals, old property appraisals, paper bonds. But more importantly, a handwritten will, my husband's, never filed. Still legal, still active. And in it, a stipulation. In the event of family betrayal, the entire estate shall defer to the trust created by Ruth Winters in full. Signed, stamped, sealed. He'd seen it coming decades before I ever did. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same table Jeffrey used to do homework on, the one Emma rolled her eyes at. I lit a candle, not for them, for me, because I had become the storm they never expected. Not loud, not violent, precise. That evening, the news ran an update. Family faces fraud charges after local elder. Fights back with full evidence trail. No names yet, but the town would know. People talk. The final step? I left a voicemail on Jeffrey's phone. One line. Calm. You forgot who you were dealing with. The next morning, my lawyer called. Everything's in place. What's next? I asked. There was a pause, and then he just got served. Outside, the birds were singing. Sun was warm, and somewhere across town, my son's world was about to crack wide open. There's a moment in every chess game when one player thinks they're winning, right before they lose everything. That's where Jeffrey was. Still smiling, still bluffing, still thinking he had one more move, but the board was already set. And I was done playing nice. The paperwork was finished, trust updated, executor reassigned, all assets locked in the new foundation, the sheriff's fraud report filed, time-stamped, ready for court, bank statements printed and notarized. Every forged document had a red pen slash across it. Big, bold, undeniable. My lawyer reviewed it all one last time. You've got them in a vice, he said. I nodded. I want it tight. But then a problem, a big one. We got word the clerk's office had lost the original revocation form I filed last month, the one that removed Jeffrey's access to my old accounts. Gone, buried in some processing backlog. Convenient. And without it, his lawyers could claim miscommunication instead of fraud, delay everything, muddy the waters. I felt the air go cold. I called Beverly, told her what happened. She didn't panic, just said 2 words. Check mailbox. I hung up, stepped outside, and pulled open the little rusted door. Inside, a yellow envelope. Thick. She'd made copies of every page before I ever filed them. Scanned, watermarked, dated. She knew this might happen. Inside the flap, she'd written, just in case the rats eat paper. I nearly laughed. Crisis averted, trap still set. Next, I called the news producer, the one who'd run my story. Tune in tomorrow, she said. We've got part 2 airing at 6. I did more than tune in. I sent the link to Emma, to Jeffrey, to the HOA group chat. No message, just the video. Let them feel it coming. Let them sweat. Friday morning, the doorbell rang. A process server in a polo shirt handed me a manila envelope. Notice of temporary injunction challenge, he said. Jeffrey had filed a counterclaim, claimed unlawful eviction from my house, claimed he was a co-resident. I took a breath. You deliver these often? The server shrugged. Not to women who fight back like this. Then he smiled and walked off. We moved fast. My lawyer filed the rebuttal that afternoon. Cited footage, witness logs, transaction trails, and best of all, his own text messages. Especially the one where he told Emma, "Don't worry, she's not coming back." That one was gold. The judge agreed. Counterclaim? Denied. Permanently. Meanwhile, the sheriff's department had begun quiet interviews, one with the notary who witnessed my forged signature. She cracked immediately. Gave them names, times, even a location where Jeffrey offered her a tip to backdate a document. They had it all, but the best part? The court date for the guardianship petition, still active. He'd withdrawn the first one, but forgot that a second copy had been submitted through another agency. He thought it was off the books. It wasn't. And now he'd be walking into a courtroom expecting nothing and finding everything. I prepared the house, cleaned the kitchen, made fresh coffee. Why? Because the news crew was coming. Live coverage, follow-up interview, public interest piece on elder justice and financial predators. They asked if I wanted my face blurred. I told them no. Emma texted that night. "Why are you doing this?" I stared at the screen. Then typed, "Because you stopped being my granddaughter the moment you called me a burden." She didn't write back. Later that evening, I got one more surprise. A call from the bank. "Mrs. Winters," the woman said, "we flagged an unusual login attempt. Someone tried accessing your trust from an unregistered device. We blocked it." "IP location?" I asked. She hesitated. "From the house you recently reported fraud at." I smiled. Right on time. The next morning, I stood at the courthouse steps. The same courthouse where I once got my marriage license. Where I paid my first property tax bill. Where I watched friends get divorced and others become citizens. Now it was my turn. I wasn't nervous. I was ready. And I wasn't alone. Because as I walked toward the courtroom, Detective Monroe stepped up beside me. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked. I looked him in the eye. "He started it. I'm just finishing." But people think revenge comes with shouting, slamming doors, a dramatic scene. They're wrong. Real revenge? It arrives quietly. It walks in calm. It sits down in a courtroom and lets the weight of truth do the screaming. I walked through the courthouse doors alone. No lawyer holding my arm, no cameras, no makeup. Just me in my best coat, court folder in my hands, and fire in my chest. The woman at the security desk gave me a kind smile. "Winters?" she asked. I nodded. "Room 3C, it's starting soon." Jeffrey was already inside when I entered. Back straight, suit freshly pressed, legs crossed like he was waiting for a brunch reservation. He didn't notice me at first. He was too busy chatting with his lawyer. That slick guy in a too shiny tie. The one who probably told him this was just a formality. Then he turned, saw me, and froze. I walked past him without a word, sat near the front, laid my folder on the bench beside me. He leaned toward his lawyer, whispered something. The lawyer turned, looked at me, then immediately looked back down. They were already on edge. They just didn't know how much danger they were in. The judge entered. Gavel down. Everyone stood. Court is now in session for petition Dogger 4897. Guardianship of Ruth Winters, filed by Jeffrey Winters. Jeffrey's lawyer stood immediately. "Your Honor, we'd like to withdraw the petition." But the judge raised a hand. This matter was already scheduled, and this court has since received supplemental evidence from the respondent. We will proceed. Jeffrey's head snapped toward me. His eyes said it all. "What have you done?" I didn't flinch. My lawyer stood, calm, deliberate. "Your Honor, the petitioner submitted fraudulent documents, misrepresented the respondent's mental state, and engaged in financial exploitation. We have evidence." The judge nodded. "Proceed." And we did. Like a scalpel through rotten flesh. First, the forgeries. The quitclaim deed on the house, the guardianship statement, the fake will, every signature side by side with my real ones. Clear. Undeniable. Then came the financial records, transfers from my account, ATM withdrawals I didn't make, payments to care services I never used, each one followed by screenshots, bank stamps, transaction IDs. Then came the knockout, the video. Beverly's ring footage played on a small monitor. Jeffrey hauling boxes out of my house, unlocking doors, digging through drawers. One clip even showed him talking to Emma. Once it's all in storage, she can't prove anything. The courtroom was silent. You could hear the hum of the air vent. Jeffrey's lawyer asked to pause proceedings. The judge said no. This court has heard enough. He leaned back, took off his glasses, and spoke slowly. Mr. Winters, your behavior constitutes sustained fraud, coercion, and elder abuse. You are permanently barred from acting as guardian, power of attorney, executor, or beneficiary to Mrs. Winters. Jeffrey stood. You can't do this. I just did, the judge replied. I'm her son. And she's still alive, the judge said. And she's watching you burn your inheritance in real time. He turned to me. You're lying, he snapped. You always twist things. I kept receipts, I said. Then I stood, took the final envelope from my folder. This is the amended trust, dated, notarized, signed after your first theft attempt. I handed it to the bailiff. Jeffrey's lawyer took one look and dropped it on the table like it burned. Is Emma still included? The judge asked. I took a breath. No, she used my name to get a car, then tried to access my accounts again. After the warning. The judge nodded. Understood. The gavel fell, court adjourned. I didn't move right away. I watched Jeffrey slump into his chair, hands on his face, shaking his head like a man who finally realized the cliff had no bottom. Outside, the sun was warm. I walked to my car, parked in the last row, slow and steady. Halfway there, I heard footsteps. It was Emma. Grandma, wait. I stopped. She looked tired. Makeup smudged, the fake confidence gone. I didn't know he'd go that far. You didn't stop him either. Her lips trembled. I just wanted a better future. You could have had one, you still could, but not this way. She swallowed hard. You really cut me out? I did, I said. But that doesn't mean forever. She blinked. Hope? Maybe. But you'll have to earn your name back. That night, I sat in the living room. Fireplace going, cat on my lap. The house was quiet again. Mine again. Then the doorbell rang. I checked the camera. No one there, just a plain envelope on the mat. Inside, a printed letter from a new lawyer. Jeffrey had filed a lawsuit, suing for emotional damages and wrongful disinheritance. I laughed. Long, loud, and full. Because the one thing he still didn't understand? You can't sue what you never owned. You can only steal peace from someone for so long before they start stealing it back. The storm had landed. And Jeffrey, he didn't bring an umbrella. The morning after the hearing, I got a call from the school district. Mrs. Winters, just confirming, you've pulled the scholarship pledge for Emma Winters? Yes, I said. There was a pause. We understand. You were very generous. That was the first domino. By noon, the donation receipts under my name were gone from the PTA site. The honor plaque Emma posted on her social media vanished, and the SUV, tied to a fraud claim, frozen. She must have tried the gas card first, because that's when the screaming started. 3 missed calls from Emma, then a 4th with no voicemail, just a text. You ruined everything. You said I could earn it back. I replied with 3 words. So start earning. She didn't text again. At 2:12 p.m., I got the next alert. Attempted access to my trust account. Denied. Location, Jeffrey's address. He was still trying. By 4:00 p.m., it was clear he had no backup plan. Because that's when I got the knock. Not a call, not a letter. A knock. I opened the door. He stood there, no suit, no smirk. Just a gray hoodie and swollen eyes. I need to talk, he said. No, you need a lawyer. Mom, please. I stepped onto the porch, closed the door behind me. I don't want to fight, he said. I tilted my head. You didn't fight when I was locked out of my house, or when you filed guardianship. You weren't trying to talk then. He exhaled hard, like he wanted to cry but couldn't figure out how. I was scared. Of what? He paused. Of losing. Of being nothing. Of never getting ahead. I looked at him. You were scared of being nothing, so you tried to make me nothing? He didn't answer. I lost the case, he whispered. Yes, I said. I'm losing everything. You already lost it. He sat down on the porch step, silent. For once. I waited, let the silence stretch. Then he spoke. I can fix this. I can return some things. Maybe we can talk to the judge, get some of it back. No. He looked up. No. No negotiation, not anymore. His jaw tensed. You're really going to just cut your own son out? I didn't cut you out, I said. You cut yourself out the moment you called my identity leverage. He stood, angry again. You want me to fail? That's it? No, I said. I want you to learn, but failing might be the only way you do. He stormed off without another word. That evening, Beverly came over, ankle still bandaged but smiling. I heard the courthouse was eventful. You could say that. We had tea, reviewed final filings, every asset secure, every title moved, every clause enforced. Your case just got a feature on Channel 7, she said, handing me her tablet. There I was, voiceover narration. One grandmother, 2 forged signatures, and a son who went too far. Comments flooded in. People were watching and siding with me. But then, the moment I didn't expect, a letter in the mail, handwritten. No return address, just M on the back. I opened it carefully. Inside, a folded note from Emma. No threats, no blame, just 2 lines. I made a mess. I don't know how to fix it. I just want to talk. It sat heavy in my hands. I hadn't planned for this. That night, as I stared at the envelope again, I got an email notification. Subject line: urgent, new motion, filed Jeffrey again. He'd found one last loophole. A quiet appeal to challenge my trust, claiming manipulation during revision. No press, no noise, filed privately, sneaky, but legal. If it worked, he could unlock everything. I called my lawyer immediately. He picked up on the second ring. I saw it, he said. Is it serious? It's desperate, but it's not weak. He's got one last chance. We'll need to fight it. Fast. I closed my eyes, tightened my grip on the phone. What do we do? He paused. Then, we bring the hammer down. Court date, Thursday. Location, probate division. And this time, it wouldn't be about fraud. It would be about intent. His, mine. And whether justice knew the difference. They always thought I'd fold, that I'd back down, that I'd forgive, because that's what mothers do. But they forgot something. I didn't raise a fool. I raised him. And now I knew exactly how to break him. The courtroom was smaller this time. Probate division. No reporters, no crowd. Just me, my lawyer, Jeffrey, and a judge who didn't look like he had much patience for drama. Jeffrey came in late. Alone. Tie crooked. Eyes bloodshot. His mouth moved like he wanted to say something. But nothing came out. We sat. The judge looked over the documents, then raised his head. Mr. Winters is contesting the updated trust, claims his mother was coerced or mentally compromised at the time of revision. He turned to me. Mrs. Winters, are you prepared to respond? I stood. I am. My lawyer passed over the final file. The last weapon. The deepest cut. Inside, audio recordings, phone logs. One handwritten letter from Jeffrey dated 5 years ago, thanking me for a loan I never asked him to repay. He called me the only person who ever believed in me. Then we played the audio, Jeffrey's voice, clear, cruel. She won't remember. Just get her to sign it. She thinks it's still a 2010 half the time. Another one. She's lived her life. She doesn't need it now. The judge's expression didn't change. but his eyes hardened. Do you have anything else to submit? I nodded. My lawyer handed him the final exhibit, a newly filed lien. Against Jeffrey's house? The courtroom went dead silent. Jeffrey blinked, stunned. What is that? I turned to him. You used my identity to apply for a refinance loan last year. You forged my name as a co-signer. His mouth opened, but no words came. That loan is in default, I said. The bank reviewed my fraud report. They've agreed to pursue repayment from you alone. I let that hang. Which means the house isn't yours anymore. He stood up, shaky. You're bluffing. No, the judge cut in. She's not. He looked through the file. This line is valid. Jeffrey took a step back as if the bench had punched him. You're taking my house? I'm taking back everything you stole, I said. He turned to the judge. Desperate now. This is my mother. She's ruining my life. You ruined it yourself, I said. I just turned on the lights. The judge leaned forward. This court upholds the trust as legally binding. All claims of coercion are dismissed. All challenges to the estate denied. Jeffrey collapsed into his seat, stunned, but I wasn't finished. I have one more filing, I said. The judge nodded. Go ahead. I handed over a folder. Thin, simple. Inside, a notarized affidavit. Signed that morning, revoking Jeffrey's access to family burial plots. He wouldn't be laid to rest beside me, not beside his father, not in our name. Jeffrey's head snapped up. He looked like I'd slapped him. You can't be serious. I am, I said. You're actually going to keep me out of the ground? You kept me out of my home. His voice cracked. What am I supposed to tell people? I stared at him. Tell them the truth. I walked out before the gavel even dropped. Didn't wait. Didn't look back. My heels echoed down the hallway like a war drum. That night, the bank finished processing the lien. His house, seized. Car, repossessed. Accounts, frozen. Emma posted a photo from a bus stop the next day. Caption, starting over. No tags, no smile. But the final blow hadn't landed yet. Not until Sunday morning. That's when the foundation launched. The Ruth Winters Trust for Women Betrayed by Family. And at the top of the homepage, a picture of my old house, my name, and a line of text that read, Built from betrayal, reinvented with purpose. That's when the emails started flooding in. Dozens. Then hundreds. Women like me, mothers, grandmothers, survivors, and buried in the pile was one email, no name, just a subject line. Please, I have nowhere else to go. I clicked it. It was Jeffrey, homeless, broke, alone, asking if he could stay one night, just one. I stared at the screen, hovered over reply, and paused. I didn't answer his email, didn't even hesitate. I stared at the words, please, I have nowhere else to go. Then I closed the browser, unplugged the computer, and made myself a cup of tea. There's a strange peace that follows a storm like that. Quiet, heavy. But it's not sadness. It's detachment. The kind that only comes when you finally stop bleeding and start watching the people who cut, you try to sew themselves back together, with shaking hands and no thread. By Monday, the headlines were spreading. Mother disinherits son after forgery scheme. Retired nurse wins landmark fraud case against her own child. Family torn apart after inheritance dispute ends in foreclosure. I didn't write to the news outlets, didn't ask for interviews. But people came anyway. Neighbors left flowers on my porch. Strangers mailed thank you cards. 3 women stopped me outside the pharmacy to hug me. One whispered, "You did what I couldn't." At the same time, the rest started crumbling. Fast, Emma posted first. A blurry selfie at a bus stop. Sometimes all you have is starting over. Then a follow-up. It's not all my fault. The comments exploded. Some called her brave, others called her selfish. One said, "Your grandma gave you everything and you spat in her face." She deleted the post 2 hours later. But the screenshots? They spread faster than the truth ever could. Tuesday morning, my lawyer forwarded me a letter. Jeffrey had filed for emergency financial aid. He claimed to be the victim of a malicious smear campaign and unlawful asset seizure. It was rejected the same day. Too many flags, too much proof, too public, and now he couldn't move money, couldn't lease a car, couldn't even use his name without it pulling up articles about elder fraud. That same afternoon, Beverly rang the bell. She had banana bread in one hand and a stack of mail in the other. "Fan letters," she smirked, handing it over. We sat on the porch and read through them. Some were heartbreaking. One woman wrote, "My daughter has power of attorney. She won't let me visit my friends. I'm 82, and I feel like a prisoner in my own condo." Another said, "My grandson sold my ring while I was in the hospital. I didn't even find out until my discharge papers were printed." I exhaled slowly. "Why do they do it?" I asked. Beverly didn't miss a beat. "Because they think they can get away with it." She poured me more tea. "But now, they're not so sure." Later that night, I got the first phone call. "Emma." I let it ring. She called again, then left a voicemail. "Grandma, I don't want money. I just want to talk. I want to understand how I let it get this far. She paused. "I miss you." Click. I didn't delete it, but I didn't respond either. Not yet. 2 days later, the chaos hit full boil. Jeffrey and Emma started posting at each other publicly. Emma accused him of pressuring her. He said she volunteered for everything. She said he lied about the will. He posted screenshots of her texts begging for money. And the internet ate it up. Reddit threads, Facebook groups, even YouTube drama channels got involved. She said she was just following orders. He said she wanted the inheritance more than he did. One video was titled, "Grandma's Last Laugh, The Ruth Winters Breakdown." It had 200,000 views in a day. They couldn't hide anymore. Not from each other. Not from the public. Not from themselves. And that's when the begging turned to blame. Jeffrey sent an email to my lawyer. "She's weaponizing her old age. She lied to the courts. She tricked me." My lawyer forwarded it with a single note. "He's spiraling." Then came the police report, filed by Emma, against Jeffrey, alleging emotional coercion, manipulation, that she signed things she didn't understand because he told her grandma would never find out. I read the report twice. It didn't surprise me, but it still hurt. Because she could have asked. She could have asked me the truth. But instead, she just asked for the keys. The next day, I got a knock at the door. It was the process server. Again, this time, Jeffrey was suing Emma, claiming her statements defamed his character and ruined his ability to work. The court filing called her a reckless accomplice with no loyalty. I stood there in the doorway, the envelope in hand, and felt absolutely nothing. They'd lost everything. And now, they were tearing each other apart. No inheritance, no home, no legacy, just broken trust, shattered names, and internet infamy. All self-inflicted. All earned. That night, I lit a candle in the living room. It was quiet, peaceful. Then the motion light outside flicked on. I went to the window and saw something new. A bouquet, placed carefully on the porch. No note, no card. But next to it, a single envelope. Thick, cream-colored. My name in shaky handwriting. I opened the door. The air was cold. The flowers were real. I picked up the envelope, opened it slowly. Inside, a birth certificate. Emma's. Folded around a check. Handwritten. One line scrawled in blue ink. This is all I have left. The candle burned low on the kitchen table. Same table I'd sat at for birthdays, checkbooks, Thanksgiving pies, and forged signatures. Now it held only a teacup and that envelope, and the silence that came after fire. I stared at the birth certificate again. Emma's name, my name, our names. A thread, however frayed. And the check? It wasn't worth much, barely enough for a half month of rent. But it wasn't about money now, not anymore. She hadn't signed it. She hadn't written, "I'm sorry." She hadn't asked for forgiveness. Just, this is all I have left. It wasn't an apology. It was surrender. I stood up, walked to the hall closet, reached into the old wooden box on the top shelf, pulled out the family photo, the one I'd hidden months ago. Thanksgiving, 5 years back. All of us smiling, unaware of what we'd become. I looked at each face carefully. Jeffrey, grinning too wide, already planning. Emma, young and sweet, before she learned how to take instead of ask. Me, in the middle, still believing love would be enough. I didn't cry. There was nothing left to cry about, just space and a choice. I didn't rip the photo, didn't burn it. I just placed it back in the drawer, face down. Let time hold it now. I was done carrying it. As I turned off the kitchen light, my eyes drifted to the envelope again. The one from the beginning. The trap? The decoy? The fake account I labeled honey jar. It started as bait. A test. But maybe it was something else, too. Maybe part of me had always known. You don't leave a honey jar out by accident. You leave it out for what comes sniffing. And they came. One by one. Not because they were hungry, but because they thought I couldn't see their hands. Well, I did. I saw everything. And I survived it. Not just the theft, not just the betrayal. I survived the part they never understood. Losing the people you built your life for, and choosing to keep living anyway. Tomorrow, the foundation will award its first grant. A woman in Michigan, 68. Her grandson took her car, drained her savings, and told her it was just a misunderstanding. She'll be getting a new car, and a new lockbox, and a lawyer, courtesy of me. I'm not angry anymore, but I'm not soft either. Some lessons need to leave scars. Oh, maybe one day Emma will come back. Not to beg, not to borrow, just to sit across the table again. No masks, no lies, just a girl and her grandmother with nothing between them but time. And maybe I'll make tea, maybe I won't. But I'll keep the jar, empty, clean, visible, just in case someone else forgets what happens when they get greedy. Because I may be old, but I always taste the poison in the honey.